up and running. And Ion is.
Yeah, you put it on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I put it on Facebook. I put it on Facebook as well today because I was like, this is a good one. This is gonna be a solid discussion. Especially because I'm not sure that I know all the answers to this one. you know?
Yeah, that and the timeline is very
It's complicated.
wishy-washy with what it wants to keep and not keep.
Yeah. There are some things that we just don't know. Um but here, let's do an intro. Uh what's up everybody? Welcome to the Unnamed Comic Podcast. I'm Alex. That's
I'm
Cisco.
Francisco.
And today we're going to be talking about the DC Comics timeline and what the fuck is going on with that.
Yeah, as best as we can, at least.
From Superman in the 30s to what's going on today. A lot of crazy stuff has happened recently that has completely changed the landscape of DC and means that you actually might want to know about some of the things that happened in previous continuity.
Sorry about that. I didn't get it's very complicated. Even in the last 40 years from 1980, so many things have changed. And your Superman or Batman might be completely different to someone else's
Yep.
version of that hero. I don't hero the DC universe. Because what Superman's debut was 1930, right?
1938, I want to say. I'm gonna double check myself, but I think 1938.
Yeah, late 1930s, early 1940s. Yeah, we got the fucking the yellow shield with the simple S on it, with the him carrying the car and the Action Comics spread.
Yeah, 1938.
That Superman is nowhere near the Superman that we have today.
Yeah. He's not a guy wearing he's still wearing elastic and whatnot, but
Yeah, he's still wearing the elastic, but
it's a little different.
He's no longer shooting a mini Superman out of his hand.
Yeah, he's no longer, and then getting jealous of that mini Superman.
Yeah, the comics in the 1930s, 1938 to the 80s were really fucking weird.
Yeah, if we were just to talk about Superman powers that he had,
Yeah,
we could have a whole episode on random Superman powers.
Yeah, and then you had the different versions of Justice League characters. Like Batman firmly killed at least 10 people in his first few issues.
Yeah, very early on, Batman, you wouldn't recognize him.
No, absolutely not. He had that big cape that stuck out like a bat's wings.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman wasn't Diana; it was her mother, Hippolyta.
Yeah.
We had Jay Garrick as the Flash with the World War II helmet.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with this? Because I was thinking we could start with Golden Age characters, work our way up to 0 Hour.
Yeah.
Because 0 Hour has that great timeline
Mm-hmm.
that explains hey, this is the continuity that we exist in now, in 1994, I think it was. So I think that's great for reference. Once we get there, everything becomes a lot more simple to explain. But we can't get there until we
what
go through Crisis on Infinite Earths and whatnot.
Because first was the Bronze Age, that was the 30s. Then the Silver Age,
the Golden Age in the 30s.
Was it the Golden Age?
Yeah, it's the Golden Age of comics.
Oh,
the golden.
That's when everything.
The Bronze Age is the time period where we invented bronze.
Because that I get it reversed because I pictured the Golden Age and where the comics were actually good.
Yeah, it's when we were very young, Like in the '90s when we were born, like the comics were like almost dead. Comics almost
Yeah,
died in the '90s. So
yeah, comics firmly almost died in the 90s. That's where Marvel sold a lot of its properties. DC sold a lot of its properties.
DC like had to like dig itself out in the early 2000s and like created this new renaissance of comics, which is why like if you talk to fans, they're like, okay, in the '80s comics were cool,
Yeah,
but then the '90s, no one like
yeah,
they were just throwing
all
stuff at a wall and seeing what stuck.
yeah, all the heroes had these weirdly proportioned muscles. They did a lot of weird shit. The one-offs were really weird.
Yeah,
Like they had Superman when he became Amish.
the Nail.
Yeah, the
You're talking
nail.
about the Nail.
Where
I
the,
actually read the
he
Nail recently.
he
And I
he
thought it
didn't
wasn't too bad.
land. He
It's
didn't land
weird.
in front of the
Yeah,
Kents. He landed in the middle of a cornfield next to an Amish community. And then, like, because he that happened, the whole Justice League of the world was fucked over.
which like doesn't feel realistic.
I mean,
Like I mean, it feels it's you know it's like hey, is Superman so integral? Like I think he is integral, but like I don't think they would go. I don't think the Justice League would look anything like the way it does to begin
yeah,
with. At that point, so like that even having all those characters together to begin with is a little weird.
yeah. But back to the main topic, the Golden
Yes,
Age.
the Golden Age.
Yes, that's just when all the heroes started popping out and like all their classic true origin stories came out.
Yeah, Golden
Bruce
Age
Wayne
heroes.
with Martha and his father Thomas dying in the alleyway because of Joe Chill. Green Lantern getting the ring from Abin Sur. Uh,
Actually, no,
oh no, no, that
we're
was
talking
it
Alan
was
Scott Green Lantern. You're
Alan
thinking the Silver Age.
Scott. That's
Uh,
right. Alan
so
Scott
we're
was
talking Justice Society characters, which were
Superman,
later
Batman,
retconned
Wonder Woman,
to be
Flash,
a different universe. Yeah,
Wildcat, Hawkman.
we are talking.
Yeah,
Yes. Here I'm gonna pull up a thing. Yeah, we're talking like World War II era heroes.
yeah. That somehow Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman went through.
Yeah, yeah. Which they always just keep, and I think recently, like a good like kind of thing that they did with Doomsday Clock, which was for anyone who doesn't know was a crossover where Doctor Manhattan. That's when we will get to it at some point, but I think it's a good thing to bring in right now. Doctor Manhattan describes watching Superman first seen in the 1930s, and then he's like, and then he goes back and he falls to Earth again, and he's like becomes Superman again, and then it's like this keeps happening
Yeah,
over and over again
he
because he's
like
watching continuity change.
he time displaces Superman in these different eras to see what happens to Superman and the people around him, like the 1930s, the 40s, the 50s,
Yeah,
and then like there's like that jump, and then the 80s, the 90s, 2000s.
yeah. It's like how Captain America. We're gonna jump to Marvel for a second. Captain America was just a guy who was living in the like World War II era up until the point where it was like, okay, he couldn't still be this guy. Let's freeze him.
Yep.
Let's say that he was frozen and then he woke up.
Yep. Let's say the original Cap was frozen, and then the rest were different Caps.
Yeah, which is I think a great retcon.
Yeah, that one went well
Yeah,
because
people
they
like
kind of
were like, okay, sure.
yeah they wrote it in like Steve died, and then these different people took up the mantle.
Yeah, and there have been
Um,
like historical things like where like Captain America had his mantle taken away anyway, so it wasn't like
yeah,
so
like,
they
he
they kind of
quit
had the
beating
work
Captain
in
America,
already. Yeah, it
but
wasn't
yeah,
so
no,
crazy. But we're
the Golden
talking
Age
yeah,
of
Golden Age. We're talking Alan Scott Green Lantern, who his power was like more mysticism than aliens.
yep,
We're talking Jay Garrick Flash, who um he breathed in heavy water.
Was it water? Or was it fumes?
No, it was like it was so fucking weird. When you read about Jay Garrick Flash here, wait, I'm gonna pull it up so I can get his. He inhaled hard water vapors as a
Uh,
college student,
okay, so we were both right.
and then it was changed to say that he gained his powers through exposure to heavy water in the '60s. So
Yeah, the origins of these heroes were weird, but like I want to stick with the Trinity when we talk about the timeline because
because it makes more sense.
the second we start getting into everyone else is
Yeah,
when it's like who, what,
but
when?
I think it's important that we bring up the Justice Society characters because the way they come in and go out of continuity
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
show in a big way shows what DC was trying to do at the time.
Yeah, because like what they made that Justice Society Earth with that Superman, Batman,
Yeah.
and Wonder Woman Earth 2.
So what we had was when the Silver Age rolled around, Barry Allen becomes the Flash, right? And
Yep,
we go entirely more sci-fi. And the Silver Age is 1956 roughly, like when they start doing that. Like that's when you would consider that starting. So they go more aliens, like space opera style of writing, as opposed to like mysticism and like magic.
yep.
It still
They
exists, but
they try
it's
to ground
hard.
the
They
heroes in science.
Yeah, they ground him in science. So you have Barry Allen as the Flash, and in one comic to be like, okay, what happened to all the characters that we were reading about before? Like the what happened to the old Flash? Like what's going on? Because people were obviously like a little confused. There was no
Yeah, because
like
they just dropped Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and the Justice Society for the Justice League.
yeah, and like the Justice League wasn't even a thing until like what was it? Like yeah, like a bit later. Like but so you didn't even have like a real like one to one like okay, this is what this is now.
Yeah,
Um but what how the way they justified it was they said, okay, Barry Allen in and it's a comic called The Flash of Two Worlds. It's a very famous cover where
yep.
you
Of him and Jay Garrick are on the brick wall.
yeah. And if you've ever like been interested in comics at all, you've probably seen it and not even known what you were like looking at because it shows up in everything. Everyone loves like to show off
It
this
even showed up in the Flash
cover.
television series.
Yeah. Um but it shows like okay, it's their Flash of Two Earths and it's like okay, so what you've been reading up until the Golden Age, like until the end of the Golden Age was Earth 2. And without telling you, DC just started writing about Earth 1.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, all your characters that you like still exist. And if we're writing about them, like they just happen to be in Earth 2. Anything new that we're writing about that's more like grounded in this, like with these characters, is Earth 1. Not
Yep.
too complicated, right? And like the Silver Age lasts until what is it,
1972.
1985?
1972.
72? Why 72?
Yep.
Out of
Yeah.
curiosity, because I put it at the it ends with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. That was I think it was 1972.
No, it's 85.
It was 85. Well,
Yeah.
it says that the Silver Age ended in 1972, and then the Bronze Age started from 73 to 85.
Well, okay, so I I mean I'll say this. I wrote a whole like paper on like history of comics and like this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I've never really come across like someone identifying a Bronze Age specifically. Because
Yeah,
usually
because
he
like,
goes, it's Silver Age and then whatever we're in right now.
mhm.
And
That's
whether
weird. Because
we
like,
and then whether we end up calling that the Bronze Age when we move on to whatever next, whatever like guy says, hey, we're in a new age of comics, which I think realistically we have something between the Silver Age and now. It's been
yeah, and
40
like
years.
for
I think we'd have a Bronze Age. I just don't think it ends before or starts before 1985 because that's when everything changes.
I mean, for me,
You cut out.
Uh, I started reading comics from the 1990s, and that for me was like the Bronze Age.
Yeah, that makes sense to
Um,
me.
so like so taken away from what I read, I would put the Bronze Age like at the beginning of the 90s, the ending of the 80s.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I don't know where what happened in 1972. That would be like the big like, oh, this is the beginning of a new era.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
with like comic ages, I usually think of like big, if
big
not if not like
big
the golden
events.
age, silver age. I think crisis events, crisis events, like
Yep,
being like, for those who don't know, every like couple years now every couple years
yep.
we have a crisis event where it switches things up to make keep readers engaged and
Yeah,
just to like open up new writing possibilities.
it's like to make sense of like the new paradigm of comics and like how they can like integrate new things into the stories of the heroes.
Yeah. But anyway, nearing like the end of the silver age, things got so complicated. There was writers had so many continuities
Yep.
and stuff. Like we were talking not just like two of this, we were talking like a complete like crazy amount, like an infinite Earths problem.
Yep. It was just
Uh,
like so many like interpretations of Superman. Like,
yeah,
oh, he has a red suit here. Oh, he has a green suit there.
it's like
Oh, this one's a communist.
yeah, this was a communist Red Sun. It's like how do you follow all this stuff? So DC's answer to that was okay. Let's have an event where we take all of these continuities, we establish that they are on separate Earths, and we go like because I mean up until like 1985, like we didn't really have a straight idea of like what the timeline is to
Yep.
some degree. Like I mean, you could assume for some things it's like okay,
Yeah,
these have
you
to
could
be
piece it
in
together.
continuity, but for like most things, it's like I don't know if that's in continuity or not. This story could be an Elseworlds comic. It could take place in like a different thing without the imprint name, you know?
Hmm.
So they were like, okay, let's take all of our Earths and condense them down to one Earth. And the actually, if you've watched any of the CW DC shows like The Flash, Arrow, Legend of Tomorrow, any of those, they did a Crisis on Infinite Earths event. I think it was not like last year. Like it was last year's event.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Well, it was like whatever. Whenever the last time all that stuff was actually running before
Yeah, because
COVID.
they had the anti monitor,
Yeah,
the monitor, and like just like all these things like that Earth's crashing back into just the
yeah,
one singular Earth.
yeah. So if you've watched any of the shows, you understand like there are multiple herbs. Like it's not like it's essentially that where they were like, okay, we're gonna take everything that people like from these different continuities. We're gonna remove some things that make power scaling weird, like because before 1985, Supergirl was um more powerful than Superman, which and they were like, well, this makes his character less interesting in a lot of ways because it's like if he's not like the last son of Krypton,
Hmm. And then you have
he's
his
not the only
cousin.
survivor. He's not like the strongest. So
It,
and
it was also really weird with Supergirl because first when they had her for a little bit she was like a doppelganger, like this just pink humanoid blob that
yeah,
Lex Luthor created and frequently made out with.
yeah, Lex Luthor
Um,
and Supergirl, that whole thing, very weird.
and then wasn't she also an angel?
Yeah, at one point, I, we can get into Supergirl's whole thing at some other point. the,
Like,
the the point is they killed off a couple of characters.
yeah, and the first Crisis. It
Yeah,
was it Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Crisis on Infinite Earths was the first Crisis.
Yeah,
And
and
then it was followed up with Zero Hour Crisis in Time to explain the changes in continuity,
yep.
which
And
was
then
it was followed up with Zero Crisis in Time 9 years after the fact. But
mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, because Crisis on Infinite Earths, that was when they had Earth 2 and Earth 1 occupy the space.
yeah,
And was it started off with the two Supermen fighting?
yeah, it started with the two Superman fighting because it was like we don't know, like,
Yeah, because like one of the Superman, because Earth 2 kept going on while they kept writing stories for Earth 1.
yeah,
So the Earth 1 heroes were just like their prime, really. They were young and they were still doing things, but Earth 2, like you saw the aged characters. Like
yeah,
Superman had grays. Lois Lane was practically an old woman by that point.
yeah. These are the Justice Society characters that, like, if you were like reading comics in like the anywhere between the 30s and the 50s, you knew these characters.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, that's interesting. You know,
Yeah, and then I'm with these because DC has had so many crises, like my memory gets jumbled
on which one is
up
which.
and because this isn't the one where Superboy Prime was the antagonist, right?
So here's how I remember it. I look at it as the story of Superboy Prime because essentially he's involved in most of them. And Superboy Prime, we should explain, is
Yes.
he's essentially from
He's
our Earth.
yeah, he's from Earth Prime.
Yes,
Where it's like there's no heroes, there's no powers, and his
they're comic
parents
book
named him
characters.
yeah, and his parents named him Clark Kent because they liked the comic.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
then it was like one night he looks up in the sky and he's like, "Damn, if only I could be the actual Clark Kent from the comics." And then like a meteor flies by, and then boom, he has the Superman powers.
yeah, he just starts flying, and then he flies up, and he meets Superman from the comics.
Yep, it was Earth 2 Superman, right?
Yes, it was Earth 2 Superman. It's important because he idolized that Superman.
Yep, he idolized the old man Superman with the like. I think
Which,
that's how I'm gonna refer to him, old man Superman.
yeah, old man Superman makes sense. Uh,
Um,
Cal Kal-El or what? No, he had a different like
it was Kal Il.
Kal-Il.
It was KAL-IL.
Yeah, that's how they like were like. There's subtle differences, like a
Yeah,
letter. Oh, we're so mysterious.
it was
Um,
Kal Il and Kal El.
yeah, but Superboy Prime, yeah, he fights against like the Anti-Monitor and whatnot in comics. Like they all the Supermen fight against the Anti-Monitor,
Yeah,
and by the
they
end,
come together. They stop fighting each other, and they're
we we should explain what
like
the
the Anti Monitor is
Anti-Monitor
trying to
is.
kill everybody.
Do you want to explain the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor? Just who they are.
That's yeah. So the Monitor is like the person who like views all the Earths in like this giant test tube, and he just watches it. It's in the name, Monitor. And the Anti-Monitor is the antithesis to that, where he doesn't like the multiverse and is trying to just get rid of the whole bitch.
He's trying to fill it with antimatter.
Yep,
That's his
because
whole. He's not like just like the anti like monitor. He's not like I don't want to watch this. He's like I want to fill this with empty void.
yep,
Yeah,
I want to make this of my own material, not yours.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah, so the Anti-Monitor goes on a tirade, and it causes the Earths to kind of merge together, and they fight, and then they're like, "Wait, hold on, you guys are heroes, we're heroes. What are we doing?" Um, then they start fighting the Anti-Monitor, and
Yeah.
this is when Barry Allen does the
He
run
runs
against.
so fast, he turns into a skeleton.
Yeah, that's like a famous comic book panel
I'm
where
gonna pull it up actually.
you just see his like skeleton just like diminish into nothing while stopping the Anti-Monitor.
Where is it? Come on. How is that? How is Barry Allen dies the first thing, not the
I mean,
like,
how many times has Barry Allen died?
I mean, realistically, like once.
I would put it like at least three.
Okay, name them. Name them for me.
Anti-Monitor,
Yeah.
um, uh,
Uh huh.
not Flashpoint.
Yeah, he doesn't
It's
die in Flashpoint.
it's the cover of him. It's when he comes back to life, and he's like, "Yo, I'm
It,
just gonna yeet myself out of existence."
what do you mean in Flash? Not Flash Rebirth 2016, but Flash Rebirth 2010 or
Yes,
2009. 2009.
2009.
Yeah, because that's when they're like ramping up. They bring Barry Allen back, and then they're like, okay, now time to say fuck the rest of this world.
Yep.
Um,
And then he also died in the New 52's Flash.
did he? He didn't die. He
Yeah, he died. Well, I'm saying he died on a technicality
the
because
technicality.
it was a future him that died.
Oh yeah, that was a rebirth. That was year one. That was Flash year one. Their little thing where
Yep.
they showed his first year as the Flash in the new continuity. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right. I'll give it to
And
you.
then there was the other one where it's like time Flash from the future. We had like that blue suit, and like he ran with that
Oh,
blue lightning.
fucking love that suit.
Yeah, that Flash also died.
All right, Flash dies a lot.
Yeah, you can't have a universe like exploding and rebuilding without a Flash dying.
I'll say this: a Flash. Here it is. Here's the thing for all you viewers. I have it up on the stream where Barry Allen is. He's essentially running to destroy this antimatter machine, and he runs around it and he has to run around it so fast that he like disintegrates. What you're actually seeing has been retconned. It's him going into the Speed Force, which
Yep.
hasn't been established as a thing yet. The Speed
Uh,
Force, not a thing until um like the late 80s, early 90s.
yeah, with Wally West.
Yeah, Mark Wade is writing, which I'm a quick side note, how you like in Irredeemable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Flash destroying the Anti-Monitor's machine kind of ends Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. It's Flash dies and Supergirl dies.
Yep,
Which
because
is what they were alluding to in this TV show. You cut out again.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet.
It's fine. Just say what you said again.
I forgot that Supergirl died in that.
There's that comic panel. It's another one of the famous comic panels where Superman is holding Supergirl and he's screaming.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's also kind of over in Final Crisis.
Yeah. They do these things where okay, so essentially a Flash dies in almost every Crisis event, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you have that.
Yeah.
This is just the first time it's happened. Uh, and so and the Crisis on Infinite Earths essentially ends with all of DC continuity being rewritten, a new singular Earth coming into existence.
Yep.
And it's the timeline that you're used to most often. Like it's the one that you're thinking of when you think of DC Comics in the modern day. Like While you might think of like you might think of Barry Allen as like the Flash, even before, um, like he came back. Barry Allen didn't come back until 2009. Barry Allen was dead from 1985 to 2009, and
For a really long
for a
time.
really long, it was crazy when they brought him back. Like it was big news.
Yeah, because like everybody, well, at least I did, and you did too,
Yeah.
grew up on Wally West being the Flash.
Yeah, and even then, I for some reason thought he was Barry Allen sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
because that's what the artists messed up a lot of the time, where it's like when they were drawing out the character of Wally West, they would just draw Barry Allen.
yeah, well, because Wally West and Barry Allen wore the same exact Flash costume, and then, well, they changed it a bit later on. Not
Yeah,
even
they
not
did.
pre Rebirth, pre New 52. They changed it even
Yeah,
like, and then
like
they made it really
right.
unique in
Oh
Rebirth,
yeah,
where I don't know. I kind of like the silvery
the
Flash
emblem.
costume, like the emblem that Wally West eventually just gets, and it's just like, okay, he has like the silver emblem Flash. He's, you know,
It's very much the grown up version of his Kid Flash costume.
yeah. They Oh, that's another thing that happens in Wrestling of Earths. They age up Wally West. They like because he wasn't like an adult at the time, so they just aged
Oh
him
no, he
up.
was a teenager.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah,
was a
yeah. So
teenager, and they were like, okay, Barry's dead. Now Wally is
the new
old,
Flash.
the new Flash, and he's an adult, and he's everyone knows his identity,
Yeah.
which was
Um,
cool. It was kind of cool to like see it because everyone knew Barry
and
Allen's identity too.
and for a little bit, Wally West had a completely different costume. He had like this really dark red costume with the silver bolt going across it.
That was not Wally West.
Who was that?
That was a different version of his character, Walter West.
What?
Yeah, no, he came from a different universe. Wally was had disappeared, presumed to be dead,
Wait,
right?
was this when he was like with Linda
Yeah.
and like he was like trying to like go like he kind of retired from being the Flash?
Yes. So he didn't retire from being the Flash. This is Wally West is gone, and everyone's like, Wally's dead. So you have a couple Flash comics where it's just like, okay, Wally's dead, and this new Flash appears after Wally presumably died. And he's like running around, he's doing things, he's saving people, but he's like darker and like hardcore. And you find out that this is like Walter West, a who is Wally West from a different universe.
Huh, I always huh. I learn new things every day.
Yeah.
I always thought that was Wally West.
Yeah, no, so did I until like I was like reading, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Because I reread all of that era of Flash
Hmm.
comics like 2 years ago. I just went through, I was eating it up.
Yeah, oof, you have more strength than I do.
Oh, it's but they're so good.
Yeah, they're
Like
good, but like
they're old.
I'm
They're old.
they're old.
The art style,
And
like,
I'm too spoiled with new art.
so here's the thing, like late Mark Wade run is perfect. It's not like too old. It's not like the like, oh, this is rough to look at. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it's just right before like art gets to the modern era where we see it out as now, like where like the before the early 2000s art too.
Hmm.
Like it's really good. I would give you a good jumping in point on that if you want.
All right.
Yeah,
Um.
but we could talk
Yeah.
about that a
So
little later. We've jumped on the Flash
yeah. So Crisis of
pretty
Infinite
hard.
Earths happens.
Yes,
And then the next crisis happens. Like
Crisis of Mirror happens, and then we have like kind of a mini crisis,
yeah, 0 hour.
0 hour, which I like until I started like really delving into like DC stuff, and because I was trying to understand like all the crisis events that happen afterwards. I didn't actually know about Zero Hour because it kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people, I think.
Hmm.
Because you have Infinite Crisis in like the 2000s and a Final Crisis shortly after that, and then you have Flashpoint, and like it just so when you think about it, you go like, okay, it's Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then it's Infinite Crisis, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But Zero Hour
Um,
was like their attempt to explain things, right? You're frozen again. You were frozen.
I'm gonna kill the Comcast guy. Um,
Same, but
yeah, so it was like just trying to set the new standard for the heroes to get everybody on track with the stories after Crisis of Infinite Earths. To be like, yep, these are the heroes. This is what we're running with. Stop asking questions.
yeah, and they have this wonderful. Um, I would put it up on the screen, but I was having trouble transferring it to my computer. They have this wonderful timeline that they introduced, where it's like, okay, this is exactly what has happened from 1985 till now, and
Hmm.
before that. Like, this is what changed during Crisis on Infinite Earths. So we're like, okay, you know, 35 years ago, the Martian Manhunter accidentally gets teleported to Earth. 33 years ago, Kal-El arrives on Earth, landing near Smallville. Like, and it brings you up to today, where you have your heroes that you're used to and whatnot. Um, Something to note is that in the timeline, Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, but they never talk about it because it's not remembered by everyone.
Yeah, it's only even
Wally West is one of the only characters who like everyone knows that the Flash died, right? It's not like Barry Allen never existed. Or that Supergirl was like just completely like, oh, no one cares. Right?
yep.
It's they died, but it's kind of vague. They don't really talk about it. Some characters you just like do not acknowledge it at all. Um Wally West is one of the few that it's like it seems like he remembers everything in its entirety. And that's
Yeah,
something about
which
Wally West that it seems like it's always been. Sorry, you cut out again. I'll wait.
there we go.
You unfrozen?
Um, yeah, no, I was just gonna say which that characteristic of Wally remembering all these crises is still here.
Yeah.
Like with any crisis that happens, Wally West is he seems
He's
to be
one of
the
the few.
only person that remembers.
Yeah, cuz like he lives cuz I think that's partially because it's like it's a cool thing for the character, but I think it more comes out of necessity for writing. Cuz how do you say, "Hey, Barry Allen died." Um Wally West is the new Flash, and how does Wally West not understand how Barry Allen died? Right? It'd be a very weird thing for them not to just like let him remember.
Yeah,
Right? So it makes sense. Um but yeah, we after 1985 we've entered the modern age of superheroes. Um the 90s have a really rough impact on comics, so you get some weirder stories. I guess I would say. Um a lot of the stuff that they do is just to try things. Like it's like
yeah, and like
what if we did this?
yeah, and like that's where like the what ifs like really became abundant.
A
Because
lot of Elseworlds comics.
like you said earlier, they were just throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. I mean, uh, you know, for what it's worth, some things came out of like the 90s that were like really fun and like stuck in continuity.
Yeah, to
But
this day.
to this day, but most of it comes from the early 2000s where Jeff Johns brings back the Justice League of America. Because from like the Justice League hadn't been around since Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
Um, so you would have like you would have like different like versions of that team, but not that team. You know, so you bring out
Hmm.
the classic Justice League. It has the Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They're in it. It's cool. We all understand. Superman dying in the 90s, by the way. I don't know how we glossed over that. I skipped over that real hard. The 90s is where you get like the death of Superman.
I couldn't hear you. It cut out.
Sorry. The 90s is where you get the death of Superman, which
Yes.
we glossed over real hard just there. Like I completely forgot that that's one of those like big events that happened at the time.
It was a huge event,
It was
but like
and it had no
that's like
repercussions.
it had no repercussions because in the months following the death of man, he came back.
Yeah. But like it introduced a lot of new characters that like some are fan favorites. I'm a big fan of Superboy. The
Oh,
Metropolis Kid, as they call him.
oh hell yeah! Fucking
Yeah.
leather jacket, mohawk,
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Like the death of Superman directly impacted how comics were written following that.
Yep.
Like dark stuff happened. You
Yeah,
know?
that's where it was like edgy
Yeah.
and like Batman is like on the Batman got his back broken by Bane.
Yeah. I mean, you have
Azrael
the
becomes the new Batman.
I mean the big event that made comics darker was the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Like wh- which is like fucking the grittiest like thing that had come out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten darker since then, but that was pretty up there. Um, it is a flash in like a flashpoint moment where like everything changed after that comic came out.
Yep.
Uh, so you see stuff like that, but yeah, the death of Superman had a big impact on like how comics function in that superheroes would die a lot more often and just be brought back. Oh, I think I lost Cisco. Uh-oh. We will wait a second. Sorry guys. We are having some technical difficulties.
But that's okay, because we have a special guest,
Special
me.
guest Ion. Oh my god. Perfect. Thank
You're welcome.
you.
So many crises.
Yes, there are so many crises.
Crises.
Okay. In this little interim, uh we're gonna have a quick questionnaire by Ion. Ion, would you like to ask any questions? You have any like questions about?
I guess I don't know if you guys would necessarily know the answer to this, but my question is not just specifically to DC Comics, but just I guess comic books in general, where it's been going on for literally generations, right? Decades.
Yes,
So
like 80 plus years.
right. So who like decides to, let's say, like kill off a very important character or introduce a new one or like just wipe the whole thing off the table and make like a new timeline or something like that. So
Okay.
who gets to call that, and do fans have increased input throughout the years?
So I think that fans have driven a lot of changes to comic books.
Mhm.
Like we can look directly at like in 2011
Mhm.
where the New 52 happens, and we're jumping ahead for a second here.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about this in more detail later, but they
Mhm.
basically make all the characters darker and younger. And while a lot of fans like
They went
initially it was
emo.
like it was very exciting
Mhm.
because
It's something new.
it's something new, it's something different. But like comic book fans also hate change. they
Yeah.
they despise change.
And I am one of those
Line
comic
wide
fans.
change. Yeah. When I told you that like there was different like Iron Mans and
Listen, the only
Captain
Iron
Americas,
Man,
you were like,
Tony
Why?
Stark. You can't have any other Iron Man. You can have like Spider-Man, you know, kind of trying to fill in the role that Iron Man had in Avengers. Same technology, and he's like a designated, almost like Tony like blessed, you know.
Yeah. You're talking about in the movies.
Yeah, only in the movies. I have
Yes.
not read the comics.
In the
Sorry.
MCU.
In the MCU. But I know we were talking about DC, so yes.
Yeah.
Comic book fans hate change.
So what happens is you have essentially executives. Like there's a board, you know?
Okay.
Like these these are companies.
Mhm.
There are publishing initiatives that are launched to increase sales.
Mm-hmm.
If
Right. Because
like so basically
profit.
what gets dropped or what gets picked up in between like issues,
Mm-hmm.
if you make it to 10 issues and then your sales like are just
Okay.
garbage, then you know it's not gonna work. This is a podcast. Also Cisco's back.
Welcome back.
Yes, I am. My computer completely crapped the bed, and I am on my phone and on a stable network.
You know what, it looks good.
Yeah.
I think your phone camera's better than your webcam.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's 100% unfair.
Oh, it does cut out a little bit though.
Yeah. But it's fine. But Ion just came in to ask a quick question. About why, like, what decides when characters die?
Like big changes.
Big changes, and I was saying essentially it comes down to, will this drive sales? Like,
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
that's
the death of Superman was driven like, hey, let's like some guy was just like every day like jokingly would say, let's kill Superman. I this is like a real story. I think this is like what happened actually.
Mhm.
He goes, okay, let's kill
I
Superman.
know.
Let's kill Superman. And like they'd be like, no, no. And then I guess one day it just was like, hey, let's kill Superman. And they were like, fuck it, let's kill Superman.
Yeah, I know. With
Yeah, we
the
are
death
talking
of
about DC
Superman,
comic book.
Yeah, we're talking about DC
with
comic book.
Superman, it was definitely.
Oh, this is not an official
It was
DC
definitely.
stream.
That would be awesome.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Um, the death of Superman was definitely a time where Superman was kind of tanking in sales. Because he was just around for so long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they
Like,
were just like, let's kill Superman and see what happens. And then the comic comes out with Doomsday, and comic sales rise through the fucking roof.
yeah, people thought that they were going to be collecting like a very expensive comic, like something that was going to be very
Yeah.
valuable.
Right.
That was the
Comic
thing.
book
But like
collection.
at that point, they were printing so many that like
The value
that
went
wasn't
down.
going to happen.
Okay.
Because Death of Superman sold crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to own a piece of history, though. That was kind of the idea. And
And then it
it
was like the
worked.
death of Superman, and then Hal Jordan's Parallax adventure.
Yes. Hal Jordan turning evil and trying to
Yep,
kill
with
everyone.
Who's Hal Jordan?
Hal
Green
Jordan is the
Lantern,
Green
Emerald.
Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Emerald Twilight.
Yep, Emerald Twilight. Yeah, and that was when Mongo destroyed Coast City and sent Hal Jordan to an insane rampage.
Yeah, exactly. It was wild. And then that gets retconned later on in the modern comic era. Again, another thing that
Green Lantern
Jeff
Super.
Johns essentially comes into comics in the modern era and goes, hey, let me add some, like, let me add some history to these characters and lore to these worlds
To make it more real.
to make it more understandable. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because then when all this happened in the '90s, after all these like little crises happen, then Infinite Crisis comes,
Yeah.
and
We-
that's when the Superman, Lois of Earth 2 are outside of time, with Superboy Prime and Alexander Luthor from Another Earth.
Yeah. And I believe what kicks it off is Earth 2 Lois dies?
No, so she's dying
She's dying.
from
That's
old
it.
age.
Yeah.
What sets it off is Superboy Prime seeing the Justice League disband.
Seeing them go dark because, well, we should talk about the lead up to Infinite Crisis really quickly. Because there was a lot of lead up to Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, because there was like oh my god, why am I blanking on the comic? It's the comic where Batman has all these devices against the Justice League.
Yeah.
They made a movie about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you're talking about Tower of Babel.
is it Tower of Babel where like Ra's al Ghul and all the enemies of
Yes.
the Justice League?
You're talking about Tower
Yeah,
of
and then
Babel. And I don't. Did they make a movie yet? Oh, no, they
yeah,
did. They did. They made
made
an
a movie.
anime movie. They didn't call it Tower of Babel. They should have.
Um, and
But
that's when Batman is kicked out of the Justice League.
yeah, Batman gets scared of the Justice League. You also have Identity Crisis, which was incredibly dark. Using like the if you search "woman in a fridge" trope, then you'll
What?
understand where it
Yeah,
which it uses that. There's a lot in Identity Crisis that is incredibly dark.
yeah, they kill off a lot of heroes' partners, like their
Yes,
significant others.
like Tim Drake's um
Father.
father dies because and he's killed by Captain Boomerang,
Captain Boomerang,
the
yeah.
original Captain Boomerang, old and fat Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, he dies. Sue Dibney, wife of the elongated man, dies.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's like it's a very dark story, but it leads into Batman. And it's important to bring it up, I think, because it leads to Batman not trusting the Justice League because he finds out that they have been controlling, or they've been erasing memories
yeah, and
from his mind.
altering personalities.
Yes. So you're dealing with this situation where Batman has left the Justice League. And then in another event leading up to Infinite Crisis, Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle,
He dies.
it dies, and then Wonder Woman kills Maxwell Lord on national television.
Yep, snapping his neck.
To save Superman.
Yep, and which Superman
he's like, "What did you do?"
Yeah, like they get into a fight, and then they all meet in the ruins of the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah,
because that's another thing that happens is with Brother Eye.
Yeah, Brother Eye. That's the other setup. It's what's that called? What's that event? That comic?
I do not remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
But
it's all lead up. Yeah, like an AI like system that Batman like is using to watch everything, and he talks to it. It's creepy actually when I think about it.
Yeah,
Because he goes,
Brother Eye goes rogue and starts to assimilate heroes, lesser known heroes, into its system with Omax.
yes.
Um,
It's the OMAC project. That's what the
yeah,
comic is called. It's the OMAC
with
thing.
Checkmate.
Yeah, the Checkmate. But yeah, essentially, this is all to say that Superboy Prime sees these characters getting darker and darker. Right? Like, so he sees them getting darker. He's like, the moral fiber gets a bit more gray.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's kind of he gets angry about this, and he's being to be completely like, you know, straightforward with this, he's being influenced by Alexander Luthor, who is a uh, is he a version of Lex Luthor, or
Yeah,
is he
yeah,
like
he
a
is.
son of Lex Luthor from like a different timeline? I can't remember.
He's a version of Lex Luthor from a different Earth.
Yes, I couldn't remember if he was like, because he's young.
Yep.
He's not
He's young and
like
still has hair.
old Lex Luthor. He has hair. He wears this gold suit thing. You know, uh, and he's like basically being like, he's whispering in his ear, he's like, hey, they're like getting dark. They get to live while Lois dies. Like,
Yeah, we can make it right.
why do we have why did we have to get written out of existence? And like he's talking like, because Superboy Prime, to be frank, his world got destroyed during Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yep.
Like,
So
everyone
far as
who
they
he's
know.
ever known is dead. So he has no one. Like, he lives outside of space and time, and he's fucking upset about it.
Yeah, and so then he finally snaps and punches a hole through reality.
Yeah, it's a great fucking scene. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can
And
find it.
what's one of the big things that Jason Todd comes back to life.
Yes, Jason Todd coming back to life is one of the biggest parts of that. Also, Superboy, uh, Connor Kent
Yep, Connell, yeah, he dies.
is killed by Superboy Prime defending Earth. So for me, that was like a big moment
Mm-hmm.
because my favorite comic, as I said before, is Jeff Johns' run of Teen Titans. Um, so it's kind of this crazy thing where you have Jeff Johns' run of Teen Titans and you're reading it, and then it's like, and then Superboy's dead. And Superboy is an intrinsic character to that
Of
team.
the Teen Titans, yeah.
Yeah, like him and Tim Drake Robin are best friends. So when you're reading like Infinite Crisis and you see him die, especially in the way he died, which is he just gets brutalized because Superboy Prime is the strongest version of Superman.
Yeah.
He has no weakness to kryptonite.
Yeah, because there's no kryptonite on his Earth.
Yes, he is if you've ever like read into like power scaling and like shit like that, where it's like, well, he's a planetary buster level at least, like that kind of thing. Superboy Prime barely exists on the fucking map. He's insanely powerful to the point where it's almost plot convenience.
Yep.
Um,
And like, who puts him down? Is it Ion, the Green Lantern entity, that beats him down?
what was it? Honestly, like I barely remember. I'm one sec. I'm on the Wikipedia. I know the Green Lantern's in prison, Superboy Prime.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah. And then
that's how he's like removed. But in terms of how Superman. Superman knocks Superboy Prime out.
Earth One Superman
Yeah, Earth 1 Superman and Earth 2 Superman dies.
dies. Yeah,
In the
doesn't
arms of
Superboy
Power
die?
Girl.
Yeah. Oh, who was also displaced on Earth One.
Yeah. It's
She's another one who remembers the multiverse events because
yeah.
she's from Earth Two.
Yeah, to keep in mind, Power Girl is a version of Supergirl.
Yeah, who was raised by Clark and Lois as their daughter.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. But yeah, Superman, uh, Cal, letter L, um, which is a crazy thing that they did. Old Superman, old man Superman dies.
Yep.
And the what happens here is the multiverse. The effects of Infinite Crisis. The big thing that you need to know about Infinite Crisis is the multiverse is back, and no one knows. Like the heroes are unaware, which is like it's the most important thing to know about it. It's a great book. I see some in the comments saying I have not read it, but I have heard that many people enjoy it. I really enjoy Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, the Crises series, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and then there's one more with Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah.
Like those runs are definitely instrumental in forming the shape of the DC universe as we know it today, with
Yeah.
retconning, erasing, or reintroducing things from characters, and reworking them in.
Yeah. So just to let's just go over what we went over real quick. Let's be convenient. Superman exists 1930s. From that point until 1985, continuity is pretty straightforward. There are multiple Earths, but continuity is like whatever. Whatever you've seen written is all part of the same continuity. 1985, we hit Crisis on Infinite Earths. Everything gets condensed down. Continuity is changed to reflect these things, like these changes. Some things are taken from different Earths. We keep it. Other things are thrown out. Mostly things that people didn't respond positively to, like things that were like making it more complicated for new readers to understand. To bring new readers in, they do Crisis on Infinite Earths. It works for a time. Then in the 90s, because people are still confused as to what the continuity is, they do, in 1994, they do 0 Hour Crisis in Time, which is a smaller event that ends with a timeline of all the events leading up to today, from the beginning of the universe until now. Right? And now being 1994.
Yep.
And then we go forward with that until 2005? 2005.
Yeah, with
Infinite Crisis, which we just discussed. So essentially, the universe has multiple Earths. It then has one Earth, and now it has multiple Earths again.
Yep.
That is the simplest way to discuss the continuity. But no one knows it.
Yeah, and then they kind of pick back up with the Elseworld stories, and like reintroducing these different versions of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Elseworlds being their what if imprint.
Yep, Marvel had the what if staple, and DC had the Elseworlds, where it was like Elseworld Superman, where like Superman is the Green Lantern.
What if Superman was Batman? Which was like I think was an interesting comic.
Yeah. And then like they go through this like pretty successful run of comics. They have like Green Lantern Rebirth, which brings back Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern, and like Kyle Rayner kind of takes a step back.
Yeah.
They then have Flash Rebirth, which brings back Barry Allen.
Which both happen after Final Crisis.
Yeah, and then Final Crisis,
Final
Crisis is just confusing.
We should have talked about this in Infinite Crisis. Barry Allen appears in Infinite Crisis. He pulls Superboy Prime into the Speed Force for a while. Basically, a bunch of Flashes pull Superboy Prime into the Speed Force. The Speed Force being the dimension where Flash gets their energy from. Like
Yep,
it's
it's
what
where they
makes
get their
them run
powers from,
fast.
and it's also where they go when they die.
Yes, it's both very complicated and pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
um, depending on how much you want to get into it. But Barry Allen appears, and this is like he's appeared before in different capacities since he died. But this is like
Yeah,
the
and like,
first indication we have that Barry Allen is actually just alive.
just
Like he's
chilling in
not
the
just
Speed
like
Force.
time displaced kind of thing, or like we're not seeing him from like earlier in the timeline, like traveling forward in time. This is Barry Allen. Like, oh, Barry Allen is just in the Speed Force, and we know that now.
Yep.
Um,
Um,
just dope. But
yeah. So then, like,
that's important to bring up, I think.
yeah, and then we get the news that Barry Allen is alive and in the Speed Force, and then when is Infinite Crisis Final Crisis
Final
issue?
Crisis is 2008, which means they had. So at the end of Infinite Crisis, they had an initiative where they jumped forward a year in the
Yep.
like in continuity. So they go like, okay, end of Infinite Crisis, we're gonna write all of our stories as if a year has passed. So your characters have like grown up a bit. They've like lived with like the events. Some of them are still trying to like bring people back. One of like the notable things that I remember was Tim Drake is trying to either bring
Bring
Superboy
back
back
a
or
comic.
clone a new one,
Yep.
which like it's very sad and dark.
There
But
was also that comic run. Um, what was it called? Because it was a
52,
comic run
52,
52,
which is one of the greatest comic runs of all time.
because
It
it didn't involve any of the mainstays.
Yes. So I'll say this. I think 52. If you're just like, I want to read like a modern DC comic. I don't know what I like. You know, like uh, 52. Great intro into comics. I think.
Yeah, because it's also from an outsider's perspective from these big names.
Yeah. You have
And
like these weird like you have characters like Booster Gold running around, like where you're
yeah,
like,
and the Question.
yeah. And the Question, who fantastic how they changed that. Renee Montoya becoming the Question was great.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of
Um,
things that come out of 52 that are awesome. There's also Countdown to Final Crisis that people didn't like as much.
yeah, I kind of I read it to read it to like understand what was going on,
Yeah.
but for me, you can ignore that.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you read 52, uh here's what I would suggest. If there are people who are like listening to what we're talking about and like I want to read that. Here's what you do. You could just read Countdown to Infinite Crisis or no, I'm sorry. You could just read Crisis Infinite Earths and just enjoy it. It's so far back in continuity that like you're gonna get something out of that big event, but everything between then and Infinite Crisis would just be a pleasure read.
Yep.
Kind of. I should say before 2003. Everything between that and 2003 is like it's hit or miss.
It's like you're reading for pleasure.
Yeah, you're reading for a good time. You're not reading to like comprehend continuity. Um, then read Infinite Crisis and then 52 and then read Final Crisis.
Yep.
Right? Does that sound right to you? Because like to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
It's a
'Cause, like,
perfect little gap.
after Infinite Crisis, 52 is the perfect gap in between the two events. Because 52, you see the setup for Final Crisis and some of the heroes, and you kind of see where the mindset of people are in 52.
Yeah. And
Um,
52 is more about like the world and how it's changed than it is about like any specific character.
yeah, it's the world and how it deals with these big events, and for the people who are not
I'm just gonna
casual
post
to
this
these
because I think
events.
there's confusion. There we go. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not that they're casualties of Infinite Crisis. It's like they were just passengers along for the ride.
Yeah, like there's a cult of Superboy. Like it's a crazy ass thing. It's also led. Should I spoil that? Do you actually know who it's led by? Do you remember?
Yeah, Superboy's girlfriend, Wonder Girl.
No, it's not led by Wonder Girl.
Oh, wait! Isn't it Dibney?
It's Ralph Dibny wants to bring his wife back to
His
life,
wife back, and he goes insane doing it.
which is from Identity Crisis. Like so, like Identity Crisis is a comic that you should read. Only if like you're not easily like just completely. How do I put this? If you have a good constitution, you're not gonna like it's not gonna like mess you up. Because Identity Crisis is really dark.
Yeah, you're gonna read it and say, "What the fuck?"
What the fuck? Yeah, like that's my warning. That is my little asterisk on you should read Identity Crisis.
Identity Crisis.
You should
Yeah.
read Identity Crisis because it's overall I think it's a good story. It changes the landscape in an interesting way, but it's dark as shit.
Yeah, for no reason.
For very little reason. Yeah, so that's the asterisk, but like it has lasting implications for the characters, which is why we brought it up. And it's the reason why we keep bringing the Flash up in these events because he has lasting effects on the world coming up. But
Yep.
you want to run through what happens in Final Crisis because to like Final Crisis for me is the weakest of them, I guess.
It didn't have anything to stand on.
Yeah, it was just like let's write crazy shit.
And so Final Crisis comes, and the introduction to it is like they're already in the crisis.
Yeah,
So the new gods are basically uh people. They're gods displaced out of like the continuity. They exist in the entire multiverse.
if you ever see a character, regardless of when you're reading about them, like if you ever see like Darkseid, there's only one Darkseid. So
Yep.
he exists throughout all the Earths and all of the timelines as one character, much like the Reverse Flash.
Yep, and it's just the interpretation of that Earth's dark side is what you're seeing,
Yes,
but it is
he
the
is a
same dark.
cosmic entity that is he's a constant. He's a universal constant.
Yep. Highfather is his polar opposite in
Yeah.
that spectrum. And they're the lesser new gods, which like they are different in different universes.
Yeah.
In this one, Darkseid's son Orion is found dead. And then the Green Lanterns come to investigate, and they set up the crime scene. Um, and that's where it starts, and it's like the death of a god. Like
Yeah.
nothing good happens when a god dies. Um, yeah, so it kind of starts off with this, and then it like the subtle hints of like kind of dark side coming in and like influencing the people of Earth alongside the Green Lanterns themselves with the
Yeah.
Alpha Lanterns. Um, and then this is again when we see uh Barry Allen, who is in like the future of in Final Crisis,
Yes,
where
Barry Allen and I think Wally West have run into like months into the future.
Jay Garrick. It's Jay Garrick and Barry Allen.
It's Jay Garrick and Barry Allen?
Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wally and Jay Garrick run into the future, and Barry is the one that gets them from that future to another place.
Yeah, because they're trying to outrun the Black Racer, which
Yep.
is he's the entity that represents death for the new gods. There are a lot of like death like entities that represent death in DC Comics. It's not like just oh this is death like you might have it in some other pantheons or whatnot.
Yeah. And the Black Racer plays a big role in Final Crisis.
Yeah,
And he is being led by the Flashes.
yeah,
Because
he's chasing them.
yeah, the Black Racer is chasing the Flash, Barry Allen, to kill him. And while this is happening, Superman gets picked up and displaced by a monitor. Um, and he gets picked up with other versions of Superman, with Overman, the evil version of Superman from Earth 3.
Yeah,
Um, uh, Uber Overman, he's the German Superman who was raised by Hitler
yeah,
and
Nazi
commanded
Superman.
the Third Reich. Nazi Superman.
You could
Then
just say
there's
Nazi
the
Superman.
then there's the Doctor Manhattan Superman.
Which is wild.
Um,
It's wild that that exists.
yeah, and then
That existed in Final Crisis, and then we had like all these of
Doomsday Kingdom.
like Doomsday Clock. It's weird that those two things both exist.
Yeah, so like Superman is on this like spaceship that like rides the bleeds through time. And they're like, okay, we have to stop the crisis at its like nexus. At the
Mhm.
nexus being a monitor who's become a vampire.
Mandrak.
Yeah, because this makes sense. Um, so Superman is fighting these people. Mandrak, he's fighting Mandrak, and then Overman becomes a vampire because of Mandrak, and then they gotta fight Overman and Ultraman.
Yeah, it's Ultraman.
It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. It's weird.
It's weird. Like this is I think the whole Mandrak stuff is the weirdest part of Final Crisis. If you had just like taken it and been like, hey, Darkseid invades Earth, he gets the anti-life equation, anti-life infects the Earth. Like Superman fights it.
That could have been it.
It could have been it. Like they didn't need this extra layer. Um, but I will say this: you forgot one Superman. There's one Superman that is modeled on Barack Obama.
Oh yeah, and he's the president of his Earth.
Yes, Calvin Ellis. Cal L. he's
Yeah,
President Superman,
he is basically Barack Obama.
and he's still around.
Um, yeah, no, like, and I have the comic right here.
Yeah,
And like even like glancing over it, knowing the story, it's still fucking weird.
it's really complicated. Like I had it and I read it a couple times and I didn't understand it until I like read what people said was happening, and I was like, oh okay.
Yeah,
I
so
guess I can see that. It's overly complex. There's too many layers for Final Crisis.
so Superman is fighting Mandrak in his own adventure, and on Earth, Darkseid is taken over with anti-life.
Yeah.
Like everywhere, the televisions, you see like the Omega symbol, and that's like his broadcasted signal for anti-life.
Yeah.
People are enthralled under him, and then the heroes who are enthralled into him have like these like helmets on that permanently beam anti-life into their
Yeah.
heads.
Wonder Woman's like fucking walking around covered
Yeah,
in like
with that
chains
her
and
hound.
shit. It's
She now leads the New Furies.
yes, it's wild.
And so the heroes remaining not under anti-life are fighting anti-life and trying to find a way to stop it. And then it like smash cuts to Bruce Wayne like flashing in and out of different Batman stories throughout history,
Yep.
and him being like, "Wait, this didn't happen. This is wrong. Uh, this was the wrong Robin for this fight.
Yeah.
I don't remember this being that way. I don't remember this. I don't remember that." And it's Batman being mentally manipulated by Darkseid's forces to make an army of Batmen.
Yes.
Again, why? I, it makes no sense to me still.
Yeah. There
And then
there's stuff going on in the background that is set up. There's a lot of setup for things that happen in the future, but like it's unclear if that was ever actually intentional.
yeah, so Batman gets out of this machine because he convinces the life form invading his memories to fight with him.
Yeah.
Um, Batman gets out, and Batman's left to his own devices for a little bit. Superman defeats Mandrake with the help of the rest of the Superman and the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
Like the Green Lantern Corps make a construct of a stake, a wooden stake, and plant it in his heart. And then Superman was also in like this weird mecha Superman with 4D prism vision,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Monitor then like told Clark to remember the blueprints for some wonder machine that'll fix things in the future. Okay, cool.
Yeah. The Miracle Machine.
The Miracle Machine. Thank you.
It's a
And
wish
then like
granting machine.
then the heroes get their foothold with and the anti-life equation. They start pushing back. Um, and then the one thing that Batman is always known for, he does not kill, and he will never use a gun. He kind of doubles back on that to kill Darkseid.
Yeah, he shoots Darkseid with a radion bullet, but Darkseid has already shot his Omega Beam eye lasers, and they fucking go through Batman's head, and Batman turns into a skeleton, which is on the cover.
Yep. Yep, and Batman is dead.
Yes, but for all who are looking at this, for everyone who saw this, it seemed like Batman had died. Which is, I would argue that Batman, what happens to Batman is the biggest thing that comes out of Final Crisis.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of like whatever,
Meh.
but the death of Batman and like the stories that come out of that are some of the best.
Yeah, because it opened the door for like Nightwing to take his place.
Yeah.
And just a whole bunch of great things that happened to the Batman mythos.
Yes. It really expands the Batman mythos.
Yeah, so Batman kills Darkseid, Darkseid kills Batman, and with the help of Barry Allen, Jay Garrick, and Wally West, they lead the Black Racer to Darkseid, which kills him.
Yeah.
And then Superman, in a rage of fury, comes down from space after fighting the vampire Monitor, and just like eye beams straight through everybody to then like pick up the body of Bruce Wayne and like just kind of like walk out of it like solemnly.
Yeah. Because
And
you have to
then
remember Batman and Superman are friends.
yeah, they're
They are best friends. Like it's, and I think a lot of times writers will either overindulge or completely like ignore that. You know,
yeah, and then
like there's no real in between. It's very rare that you get like a good show of like the respect between these two. in like a real way.
Yeah.
You know?
And then Final Crisis goes through this weird time jump in like the last few panels, and then Superman builds the Miracle Machine, and to use it, he sings.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he sings, and then when he sings into the Miracle Machine, it breaks apart, but it works, and it kind of like resets the universe.
Yeah.
Which, again, sure.
Yeah. But Final Crisis is a very mixed bag. But I think we should just jump to how it ends. Like the final pages of Final Crisis, which I would say are the only ones that really matter.
Yeah, like the final pages of Final Crisis, the Green Lanterns put Earth back where it's supposed to be
Yeah.
in the multiverse.
Okay, so there are two things that happen in Final Crisis that I've been very unfair. The big thing is heroes now know that the multiverse exists again.
Yep.
That is one of the bigger points, because up until like from the end of Infinite Crisis to the beginning of Final Crisis, they didn't know.
Yeah, and then they knew because an army of flying Superman from all these different Earths
Yeah.
comes in to save the day. We have a new Monitor,
Yeah.
who's the son of the original Monitor.
Nix Yotan.
And then we get taken back to like prehistoric times to a man drawing in a cave, the symbol of the bat, and it is very clearly Bruce Wayne in his undies and utility belt only.
Yeah.
Time displaced because the Darkseid's Omega Beam didn't kill him; it just threw him back in time to make him a ticking time bomb for when he gets back to the original time.
Yeah, and you might ask, why didn't it kill him? We don't talk about that.
And comics.
Yeah, comics. Um, you know. So to move on, things that come out of Final Crisis. The big takeaways: heroes know that the multiverse is back. Characters died. Batman died. I think some other characters also died, but Batman's the big one that you're gonna remember, and
Yeah.
it's most important for the plot. Barry Allen is back now.
Yep. Yeah,
Is
he is,
it
because the year after is then Flash Rebirth.
the but before that is um Green Lantern. Oh my god, how am I blanking on this? Blackest Night.
Was Blackest Night before Flash Rebirth?
Yeah, because it brings some characters back. It's a soft reboot.
I thought Darkest Night
Well, I mean,
was
we
in
can easily find out.
2010.
Let me double check.
Because, like, as far as I remember, like, the Green Lantern run for New 52 led off of with Blackest Night.
Yeah. Maybe I'm like completely wrong about this. One sec. I'm gonna do a quick search. Quick search.
Because I remember Flash Rebirth happening before.
Well, but to
Blackest Night.
keep in mind though, there were two comics that barely changed in the New 52, and that was Green Lantern and Batman, because they were selling really well.
Yep.
They didn't really change their continuity at all. 2009. June of 2009 was Blackest Night. And then Flash Rebirth. was uh April 2009 to February 2010.
Okay, so
So they're happening around the same time.
all right.
They're being written during the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I personally I would put Flash Rebirth in
Flash
the
Rebirth does
timeline.
start before Blackest Night.
Yeah, yeah. So like that story finishes before Blackest Night, even though the comics were issuing at the same time.
Yes, and what's it called? Green Lantern Rebirth also happens before Blackest Night.
Yep.
Because
I,
it
I,
brings Hal
yeah,
Jordan back, and Hal Jordan's not an evil motherfucker anymore.
yeah, it was explained by the fear entity Parallax.
Is imprisoned within the power
The
battery,
Green Lantern. Yeah.
the central power battery.
But Final Crisis, definitely the weakest out of all the crises. And if it sounded as confusing as the way we explained it,
Then we explained it
read
well.
it. Read it, and you will be just as confused and thrown for a loop at the story.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in a very in the next 2 years after Final Crisis. A bunch of really cool stuff happens. Like
Yeah, I want to know.
some of the greatest, some of my favorite DC comics happen between the end of Final Crisis and the beginning of the New 52.
Yeah, because for me, that was when kind of Grant Morrison, Jeff John, kind of like took over DC and
Yeah,
their publishing from that point on with stories.
you have
Like I think at some point other authors for different books had to go to them to not fuck up the continuity.
yeah, because they had shit kind of in check. It's like, okay, this is what's happening in Gotham. If you're writing a character that lives in Gotham, you have to know about this.
Yep.
If you're and that's just general publishing stuff that you need to know in the modern comic age, because there's so much going on, and now there's the internet where people are talking about things and they are making sure that shit lines up. So if you have a
Yeah,
continuity error, people are going to call you on it.
absolutely.
And sometimes they might let
But
it slide because it's not that big of a deal. But you know, it's it's a lot more in the eyes of the fans,
yeah,
right? So in between the events of Final Crisis and um, Flashpoint, let's talk about a few of the things that come out of that. We have
Blackest Night.
Blackest Night. We have Bruce Wayne: A Road Home,
Yep.
where he is basically traveling forward in time and slowly remembering who he is. Eventually, he gets back to the present and starts up Batman Incorporated, where he's getting
Amazing run.
Batman Incorporated is so good. Again, and you, if any of these sound interesting to you, just go read them. Go on Comixology. I'm sure a lot of them are included with Unlimited. Comixology
Yeah, and
Unlimited is a great service. We get nothing from saying that, right?
but it is an amazing
It's an
service.
amazing service. It's like the Netflix of comics.
Yeah, and from Bruce Wayne dying, we get Nightwing as Batman, and the son of Bruce Wayne, the legitimate son of Bruce Wayne,
So
Damian
good.
Wayne beating his Robin.
Yeah,
Tim Drake becoming Red Robin. Um, we get Connor Kent back.
yeah. Connor Kent comes back for a little bit.
Um,
We
what else?
um I'm a big fan of the Red Robin series that they did, but that's not that important.
Um, yeah, we get these another great resurgence of comics.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
it's like a momentary like a mini uh new golden age kind of. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's such a there were so many good comics coming out between like the end of Final Crisis and the beginning of the New 52 that to me like who was reading all these awesome comics, I was not excited about the New 52. I like
where
I could have been excited. That's the thing. Like there was probably like a moment like earlier like where I would have been like, "Oh, okay, they're changing up continuity. That's dope."
yeah,
But that moment was like all these comics are really good. I want to see more things in this continuity. Like I want to see more from them. So when they're like, "Okay, we're going to change things up. Everything's going to be different." Like even the things that I was like interested in, I was like, but that means all of my favorite stuff is gonna be gone.
yeah, and it's funny because like there were people on that side of the spectrum where it's like this is gonna fuck things up. You guys are really like redoing the whole DC universe. Whereas me, because the New 52 started in 2011, correct?
Yeah, 2011 was the New 52. Shortly after Flashpoint happened.
I really got into comics at that point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, so when the New 52 came out, like that Superman, the New 52 Superman, is my favorite Superman.
Oh
And
man,
no one could tell me otherwise.
you
That Batman is my favorite Batman.
well that Batman is just Batman.
Yeah, but like he still has
that
this kind of
run
like
of Batman is really good though. I
yeah,
understand what you mean. Like Scott Snyder's Batman is really good.
and like Scott Snyder did such an amazing job with Batman that like right now the current run of Batman is still like influenced heavily
Yeah,
by Scott Snyder's
because
run.
he expanded the mythos again, and then he wrote this amazing event after that. But before we get too deep into it, we should talk about Flashpoint because Flashpoint is the event that kicks off everything.
Yeah,
And to talk about Flashpoint, we need to talk a little bit about Flash Rebirth, mostly what comes out of Flash Rebirth. Um, if you will allow me to
yeah, yeah.
explain.
Go ahead.
Uh, during Flash Rebirth, Barry Allen has recently returned from being trapped in the Speed Force for decades or a couple of years, depending on how continuity looks. It's unclear how long it's actually been in continuity.
Yeah,
Um, because that kind of stuff is hard. It's like Bruce Wayne keeps staying like around the same age, and Dick Grayson gets older until they're like they look like they're about the same age. You know, it's that kind of thing.
mhm,
But yeah, so the Flash comes back. Everyone's really excited the Flash is back. They throw him a damn parade. Like there's a Flash Day in Central City. It's all very exciting. Um, and then a bunch of speedsters start showing up. Like a bunch of his enemies start showing up. Barry Allen sucks the speed out of a couple of them, namely
yeah,
Savitar, who is like the god of speed.
yep,
And he realizes that there's something wrong in that he has become the Black Flash, which is an entity that is like represents death for speedsters. So we go with like this storyline where it's like, what's going on? Why is it like this? He ends up in the reverse speed, or what is it called? Like it's not the ant is it the anti speed force or the reverse speed
it's
force?
it's it's the reverse Speed
The
Force.
reverse speed force where Eobard Thawne, the reverse Flash, who is a villain, like he's like the Flash's most iconic villain. So much
Yep.
so that like they've had multiple people called the Reverse Flash. because people just understand it. They understand it's like, oh, okay, that's the Flash's like big villain right now. He is revealed to be influencing the Speed Force, Barry Allen, and it's revealed that he actually has been manipulating Barry Allen's life from the time he was a child and his mom died.
Yep. He's the one who killed Nora Allen.
Yes. Barry's mom when he was 10.
He's the one who kind of like spilled the chemicals on him.
Yeah. He's been influencing Barry Allen's life the entire time. He made him the Flash. And in fact, during this comic, we see Barry Allen and Eobard Thawne run and become the lightning bolt that makes Barry Allen the Flash.
Yep.
Which is, take it for what you want. It was a cool moment. I thought it was pretty dope. It's weird, but it's pretty dope. So realizing this, coming out of Flash Rebirth, Barry Allen's like, Eobard Thawne killed my mother. He's from the future. Like, you know, it's like, Eobard Thawne is from the 25th century? 31st?
The 31st century.
I thought Eobard Thawne was from the 25th, and then Bart Allen is from the 31st.
You are right.
Yeah. Anyway, he's like, this guy from the future, my greatest enemy, has been manipulating my life this whole time. I want to save my mom.
I'm gonna make things right.
Yes, he's gonna set things right. So Barry Allen, you know, Barry Allen makes the unilateral decision to run back in time and save his mom, and that's how Flashpoint opens. It opens with right after this moment. So you don't actually opening Flashpoint. You don't actually know what's happened.
Yep.
You just know that Barry Allen's mom is alive, and things are weird.
Barry Allen is back in Central City without his powers.
Yeah, he's not the Flash.
There is no Flash.
Yeah, there is no Flash. What we do know is that Aquaman and Wonder Woman are at war. Batman is shooting guns, which is a weird thing.
Yeah, Batman is also not Batman.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be Batman. There's a lot of weird things going on, right? To the point where like the world is so fucked that Barry Allen's like, I gotta figure out what's going on. And so he actually goes to meet up with am I correct in remembering this, that he goes to meet up with Bruce Wayne? He's like, I gotta go find Batman.
Yeah, he goes to the cave, yeah.
He goes to the cave and he finds out that Batman is not Bruce Wayne, it's Thomas Wayne. Who is Batman's father, who got shot in an alley when Batman was a kid, leading to him becoming Batman.
But because Barry Allen saved his mother, it was kind of like that ripple effect where Bruce was the one shot in that alleyway. Thomas snaps, kills Joe Chill, and Bruce's mother becomes the Joker.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there's a whole comic like just about that continuity and those events.
Yeah, there's I believe 7 or 8 different comics explaining where each hero is in this new universe.
Yeah, the Flashpoint universe is actually pretty interesting. But you know, it's only meant to like last for like a little bit. Just for the sake of story. Anyway, we find out that essentially by Barry changing the past that he's changed so many things in the future. And he's basically like, okay, I gotta get my hours back. That's the first step for me getting back in time and fixing this. I'm gonna bring your son back, and so Thomas Wayne helps him. He's like, you're a crazy person. Like, he essentially like thinks he's insane, but why not? Like, And so they set him up with this electric chair, essentially. They put Barry Allen in an electric chair.
Perfect. It was the electric chair.
It's literally an electric chair on top of Wayne Manor as there's a lightning storm going on.
They failed the first time.
Yeah, and Barry Allen is covered. He's just a burned body.
Yep, and then
It's like, put me back in the
they
chair.
do it a second time.
Yeah, and he gets his powers back. Something we should note is I think they actually do have the Flash ring. Barry Allen has the Flash ring when he wakes up originally, but it's not his costume in it.
No, it's Eobard's.
It's Eobard Thawne's. So that's the first clue that something's off. But when he becomes the Flash again, he immediately changes the costume
Yeah, he
into his red.
he polarizes the molecules in the costume.
He
to
does
change
he
the
does Speed
yellow-
Force magic. Let's just say that.
Yeah, they explained it in the comics that it was like really weird but really cool.
Yeah.
And he just reverses the colors.
Yeah. So you go through like the rest of Flashpoint. Basically, he starts running, trying to get back to the past, and he gets stopped by Eobard Thawne, who's like, "You did this, Barry. Like, I could have never done this. This is crazy. Like,
Yeah, this was literally all of you.
this is impressive." So there's that. So you're dealing with this like thing where the Flash is trying to get away, he's trying to run. There is a bomb going off. It's about to blow up like where he is because of the war between
Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Is like it leveled London.
Yes.
It leveled Europe, and now it's leveling the whole world. Barry can't get enough speed for the Speed Force because Reverse Flash is siphoning the Speed Force
Yeah.
to keep it there.
To explain it, there's only one Speed Force. It's as if there were two cars hooked up to the same gas tank, and one car was like using most of the gas.
Yeah, and like they're going in like opposite directions.
Yeah.
But like Speed Force is like in the middle with the two forces pulling in the two directions. Thomas Wayne catches Eobard off guard and
shoots him in
through
the head,
temple.
which is awesome. It's a great scene. Like it's a great like panel, right? Because you see it, it's just like, oh, and then it's like, okay, run, Barry, and he's outrunning. Yeah. He's like limping because he hurt. And he's outrunning the explosion, the like death, essentially, to go back in time and stop himself from saving his mom. Which he does. But something happens.
Yeah, an outside force from then on influences the timeline and kind of merges the timeline again with different things.
Yeah, it's unclear what happened there, but something about when he went back in time and let his mom die again, things changed. Some things in very big ways, some things not at all. But when he comes back, and Barry Allen doesn't recognize that things have changed. I think it's an important thing. It's something that you don't know right away because you're like, oh, Barry Allen must remember that pre-Flashpoint like universe,
but he doesn't.
He doesn't. What he comes back to is he brings Bruce Wayne a letter from his father, and you, as the reader, can realize that Bruce Wayne is much younger.
Yeah, and it's looking at the panels of like the Flash and Batman, they have significantly updated suits.
Yes, everything has happened. Everything has changed in that every character that you know is both younger in their prime, kind of, and a little darker.
But like not as dark as the 90s.
Not as dark. Mostly. Yeah. So that is what happens to lead into which was and
The
this is
new
the
52.
biggest rewrite of history. It's the biggest continuity like change. I would say overall, really. Because even like Crisis on Infinite Earths, like you still had like it was the same characters. They were just, you know, like some of them were
Yeah,
just
yeah, no.
gone.
You
Like
know,
this is like
um,
these characters no longer exist. The characters that you've been reading are completely different, unless you're
yeah, like,
reading Batman or Green Lantern, which stayed the same because they were selling like hotcakes.
yep, and like Flashpoint like changed the history of so many heroes with the most prominent being Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Flashpoint was a crazy event that basically changed everything. And depending on where you were in comics at the time, as we were saying before, it was either like a really cool thing for you and a great intro for new readers, or you're as an old reader, you might be like, "But I was just reading this.
Like the fuck is this new shit?
Why are all of my comics canceled?" That's how it felt to me. Like everything that I really enjoyed, like I was really enjoying at the time, got canceled all
Done.
at once
You,
in
you're
2011.
done.
Yeah. So there's like there's a good like month where all the new 52 stuff is coming out like at first, and it's all selling really well. It's outselling Marvel. It's great. And then that immediately falls off, except for Batman and Green Lantern like before.
Yeah.
Like so the initiative worked for about a month, and then sales kind of stagnated and went back to like lower levels.
Yeah, but they made the decision, so they had to stick with it
They had
for
to
another
stick
4
with it.
years.
And it's not like, by the way, not every New 52 comic is bad. I would say most of them are pretty good. They're just very different from what you read before.
Yeah.
So if you're a new reader, it's actually a great jumping on point, I think, for a lot of them. Right? When we talked about this on our first episode, new readers jump on the New 52. It's really great actually. But it's not what you were looking for from before.
Yeah, no, and that's why like it is a great jumping off point for new readers because you kind of get the status quo of the DC universe today.
Yeah. And it only gets better. Like the best part is after the New 52, you have Rebirth as an imprint, which is, I mean, we can agree that Rebirth is like infinitely better than like the New 52 stuff, right? As a whole. As a whole. Like not like on an individual comic maybe, but like as a whole, Rebirth was much better.
I can argue the other point.
You think New 52 was better than Rebirth in what way? For what comics? Because I can see it for some of them.
So for me, like Rebirth, don't get me wrong, Rebirth was amazing. Some of it was very confusing, Superman.
Yeah.
But overall, Rebirth was really great. But the New 52 gave us the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
It gave us Superman Unchained. It gave us the Superman Wonder Woman run.
Which, depending on your view of it, is one a point in one or the other.
And like me, okay,
You liked it.
the Superman Wonder Woman was them being together as a couple.
I think it's interesting. I think it's too easy for like the long term, but I think it's interesting in the short term.
Like for me though, like yeah, Lois Lane has been the mainstay for Superman for like the past 80 years up until 2011. and like we saw realities where Superman and Wonder Woman got together, like Kingdom Come,
Yeah.
but like their their matching makes the most sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense for that Superman
Yeah,
specifically. The Superman who loses his parents. That's what changed Superman, by the way. Superman, like the big continuity change for Superman was his parents died in a car crash when he was what, like in his late teens.
it happened
It happened during a
either
dance.
during it happened either during his prom or right after his prom.
Yeah, so he's like, he's just become like a man. And
And then he just fucks off and moves to Metropolis.
yeah. So like for that version of Superman who's like gone through like such shit to find someone who is essentially just like him, it makes a world of sense.
Dude, and like not only that, but like the new 52 Justice League run and how they reintroduced Earth 3.
Yeah. Forever Evil I think was a great event.
Yeah, like these arcs in the new 52 is like what brought me back to comics
Mm,
and like reinvigorated myself into getting into all these comics
yeah.
and like why I have like most of the knowledge of comics that I do right now.
Yeah. I mean, I myself bought the New 52 omnibus, like that big book. I went to Barnes and Noble, which I did a lot of when I was younger because I was a fucking nerd. Uh uh so I was like looking at like their comic section, I'm like, "Oh, this is like the whole thing." Right? If I get this, I can figure out what I want to read.
Yeah.
And like I think that was part of my thing with the New 52. There was a lot of stuff where I was like, this is interesting. But am I going to go and invest in, cuz comics is reading comics is expensive over time. Over time, reading comics is expensive, especially if you're reading multiple runs. Right? So I'm like, am I going to invest in these characters? Am I going to get a payoff? And for some of them, it was like, obviously, I'm going to keep reading Batman. Why wouldn't I? Right? I'm going to check out the new Superman. I'm going to check out
Yeah.
the new Wonder Woman. I'm going to check out the Trinity. I'm going to see what Teen Titans is like. Teen Titans, Teen Titans before was my favorite series. Teen Titans The New 52 is just...
Garbage.
Yeah, it's kind of garbage because like these characters are nothing like you could argue that for like at least Superman, like the core of who Superman is there,
Yeah,
right?
but the Teen Titans, it wasn't.
The Teen Titans, like it's like these characters that I don't care about, right? Because they've changed who Superboy is like a lot. They've changed who Wonder Girl is. They've changed who like Tim Drake is, and Tim Drake, my favorite Robin. Like, so I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I will say though, I did invest in every single new 52 run.
Yeah.
Like
You went in on
I think
every
I
new
have
50, all 52 of the new 52 runs.
I think I have the majority of all new 52 runs and their volumes.
Wow, that is commitment.
Like with how heavy I fucked with the new 52, I didn't care if the comics were shitty. I got them.
Oh wow. Wait, hold up. We got a big anonymous gifting of subs to the channel just now. Uh thanks for that. Anonymous. Appreciate you. I came out of nowhere. Awesome. Anyway,
Great.
great. Uh Next time we eat together, it's on me. The the But yeah, no, that's insane to me that you invested that heavily in the New 52. But at the same time, who am I to say anything? I'm a crazy person. I have a shitload of comics on my Comixology account, like, and not all of them are great either. So it's fine.
It's like I
You
got
invested in the
New
world,
52. I
which is
did, and
great.
then
That's a good thing.
Futures End, fucking
Futures
amazing.
Futures End was like one of those very controversial things for people because they were like
I
either you love it or you hate it. I loved what came out of Futures End, which was again because Tim Drake is one of my favorite characters. Tim Drake becoming Batman Beyond was really cool, but I also feel like we're getting very off topic.
yeah. Anyway,
Overall, it's important that we bring it up though, like what the differences were here. Everyone's
Yeah, like-
younger. Continuity for is kind of like we don't know exactly when things took place because the characters are younger, but some of them have like their histories. Like
Yeah, then
Batman
some-
is only like in his like mid to late
Mid-20s.
20s, but he's also gone through most of the things that Batman has gone through. Like
Yeah,
he's
but,
had
like,
Bane
the
break
other
his back
ones-
and stuff, so it's like I don't know.
and then like the other heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, a lot of the other just Aquaman,
Yeah.
the New 52 Aquaman, fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Aquaman
Aquaman has never been more interesting than he was after Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Like, I think I said this to you last time. Give me Aquaman without a shirt on, or don't give me Aquaman. I want fucking. I'm a badass ruler of Atlantis. Like, you know, like I want long hair, bearded Aquaman.
Yeah.
Like anything else is like he's a pretty boy, and I don't want to fuck with pretty fish boy.
Eh.
Yeah.
I do think though, stopping here at the New 52 before we get too heavy into it,
Yeah.
it is a good place to stop because the New 52 does carry on for like another 5 years, and a lot of other events in the New 52
Yeah.
happen.
Maybe
to
we
get
do
to
a
Rebirth.
part 2 of this.
Yeah, this is definitely a part 2.
Yes, because we have gone for 2 hours. But yeah, okay. So that is, I guess, part 1 of our DC Comics timeline discussion. We've gone from the 30s to 2011.
Yep.
And I think we were gonna have a big conversation next week. Which, as always, you're good for next Saturday at 3, right?
I believe so. I'll check my schedule tomorrow.
It'll all go up on the Discord. If you just keep an eye on here, like I will probably be talking about it on a different stream anyway. Because we have a lot of E3 coverage coming up, which I'm going to be doing on here. You're also welcome to join any of that, Cisco, if you would like, if you're interested.
Oh yeah.
It's very up to you. We can talk more about it off stream.
Yeah, just text me the details.
But yeah, next time we'll get into the metal events.
Yep.
And Rebirth and what happened with Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, because it goes Rebirth, Doomsday Clock, and Death Metal.
It goes Rebirth, Dark Knight's Metal, Doomsday Clock, Death Metal.
Doomsday Clock, Death Metal.
But before Rebirth even happens, there's Convergence. So we have quite a bit to cover. We have quite a bit to cover. I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's smart that we split this into 2 because they're very different. We covered pre-Flashpoint continuity. Next week is post-Flashpoint continuity.
Yep.
And I think that's it. Thanks guys for watching. A lot of fun.
Yep.
All right. We're signing off.
Thank you.
Peace.